Pokemon podcaster's favorite Pokemon podcast. If that's true, we'll find out later tonight. My name is Kyle Koopa Rios, and usually I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. George Fabre, the Pony Bottle Champ. But George is on assignment in Peoria right now. We sent them there to count how many chairs they need for their next One Piece regional that they hold there, because I guess they go there like 3 times a year, supposedly. So he'll be all right. No, George has got tied up with some work stuff, but we still have a fun episode for you guys today. As you can see, we have a very special guest on our episode, a pillar in the Pokemon TCG space on YouTube, 11 plus years in a game, a commentator on the European side of things for the Pokemon TCG. You might recognize him. And a man that famously ate a cheesesteak once, and I think he liked it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Omnipoke joining us from across the pond, Joe Bernard. Joe, thanks for joining me, man. How you doing?
No problem. I'm doing good. Thanks for the intro. That was quite something. And I have to get used to the cheesesteak being part of the intro now, I guess.
I think we made I think if that cow has any more milk in it, we might have just squeezed the last of it out of there. Really gotta milk that for all it's worth. You did like the cheesesteak, right? I think
for what it's worth, I did enjoy the cheesesteak. Yeah, it was very good.
Great. I'm a fan of the cheesesteak. It's hard not to like it. Cheese and meat. It's can't go wrong with
it's
that.
a classic combo. Yeah.
Can you get a good cheesesteak in the UK? Is that a thing?
We don't even do it. It's not a thing at all. So yeah, it was baffling. And yeah, the size of it was something as well.
Yeah, that'll get you. I think that feels more like a regional thing. Like on this side of the country, like the Northeast, the sandwiches are insane. You may have heard them referred to as hoagies. We call them subs in my part of the country, so It's a little, it's weird, It's like an Alolan version of a sandwich or something. So right. That's how they mix it up. But so we got quite a fun episode planned for you guys today. We're in the off season for approximately another week before you can start earning championship points again. So, me and George did some. Sending up some feelers to get some fresh guests on the podcast, and you were at the top of most of our lists. So I'm very happy to sit down and chat with you today about a numerous amount of things. But I'll start by how I ask every how I start every podcast. How's your week going so far? I know you got quite a busy spell coming up. So how are things going on your side of the world?
Yeah, really good. It has been very busy. I'm doing a lot of tidying and organizing and retidying and reorganizing. I've had a warehouse full of cards for many, many years that have just been gathering dust, and I don't throw anything away at all. So I'm at the stage now where I'm separating cards that I could conceivably ever need again, and then the cards that I will never ever need again, which means I'm looking at GLC, I'm looking at cube format, I'm looking at all old formats of all time to see if the card had ever seen play in any sort of meaningful way, just that I don't throw it out on the off chance I need it in 10 years time or something when I build a retro deck. And if it fails all those checks, it then goes into a pile that will eventually be thrown away. But we're talking black and white cards, diamond and pearl cards, all these cards that are basically started with I've been hoarding forever. So I'm just amassing cardboard boxes and then sifting through them all. It's so, I don't know how it got to this point. And I'm sure that gets, that point comes for all of us at some stage. Yeah. But I have a big incentive to do a big tidy up at the moment.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. What's the coolest card within reach of you right now?
Oh, there's nothing cool near me right now, to be honest with you. I shuffle loads of Japanese random bulk just to have something to shuffle with.
Oh, dude, I do that all the time. It's great.
I've got all my playables to the side of me, and I've got some slabs, to be fair. So I do have some stuff. So yeah, it's all my collection stuff I need to start sorting and selling as well. Just things that I've held off forever. But yeah.
When you got as much, time in the scene as you do, you just kind of collect stuff. And that's something I wasn't quite prepared for when I've only been doing this for, going on about 3 years at the end of this year. And I was like, I'll buy stuff here and there. And then, my girlfriend would come over and she's like, you have a lot of stuff. And I'm like, don't say that.
It's like a closet becomes a room, becomes a house. That's how it's happened for me.
It's truly incredible stuff. The coolest card within reach of me right now is this full art Milotic, and cool is subjective in that sense. So,
that's something.
It's a card. I thought for my favorite game I like to play like every rotation is like what can I build without having to buy anything new. And
Mhm.
unfortunately for me, the two decks I were able to build without buying any new cards this format was Gardevoir and Walls. And I'm
Oh,
like, I don't
Wallens.
play any of
Yeah.
these decks. Those are
God
certainly
of
two
War's good.
decks. Yeah, that card's that's a lot of trigonometry, man. That's a lot of
Mhm.
math. Like I have
It
to, I had to
is.
help someone do like Screamtail math yesterday, and they're like, "How much is this again?" I was like, what's what's 20 times 6? Give me a second. I'll get
Yeah.
there.
Get the
There's white
fingers
smoke
out.
coming out of the Vatican at some point. Eventually, I'll figure this out. But yeah, I'm glad everything's going good on your side of things. Have you recovered fully from your American tour?
I have. Yeah. So the jet lag did hit me pretty hard. Because I had a stop off in Boston. I was able to sleep on the way from New Orleans to Boston, but I couldn't sleep on the way home, which then just like ruined my next like 2 or 3 days.
Oh
But
no.
I'm like fine now, and yeah, it's off season, so it's a bit chiller. So I've got over that. It's just hay fever that's absolutely killing me now. So like allergies
Oh my
is
god.
just
Yeah.
completely ruining me now.
No, it's
That's my
tough.
struggle every day.
It's tough. Living with allergies is just awful. It's
Mm-hmm.
been a little bit better like recently, or at least around here, because we actually just got some rain in. We've been in the midst of a heat wave. I'm
Yeah,
dying. It's
yeah.
so hot. If for the folks listening at home, if you hear a whirring in the background, it's my air conditioning, and if I turn it off, I will literally die. So please, it's just so hot. I went to go play cards last night, and like the air conditioning was like, I think I gaslit myself into thinking that the air conditioning was working. It probably was not. It was hot. It's just the dog days of summer, as they
Sheesh.
mention. But yeah, I'm excited to get you on in this busy time. Um, I think I'll start with a question that I like to ask all my guests. Do you remember what your earliest memory with Pokemon in general was? We're on the same age, so I feel like was Pokemania
Yeah.
as big over there as it was over here?
It was massive. Yeah, I definitely remember waking up and watching the new episode that would drop every morning before school. I remember that with my brother. I remember literally receiving my first card, which was a Machop from the starter deck 2 that my brother's friend got. Then my brother's friend gave him a handful of cards, including multiple Machops, and then my brother handed me one Machop. So I know like my very first card, and like I remember the playgrounds, like collecting and trading and doing all that stuff. So yeah, I was definitely part of the mania as a kid.
Would you believe me if I told you that the first Pokemon card I also ever got was the Machop?
The base
the,
Machop.
the base Machop. I
There it
remember.
is.
I remember it vividly. I don't know if I've ever told a story in the show before, but I think I was like sick with like I think I had like an asthma attack when I was like 5 or 6, and I had to go to the hospital. So they took me to the ER, and I even as an adult, all these years later, I'm terrified of needles. I hate the doctor. It
Mm-hmm.
stinks. So I was like freaking out as a kid. They're gonna have to put shots of me doing this. And then one of the doctors is like, "Hey, I got some loose Pokemon cards lying around. You like Pokemon?" And I was like, "Yeah, I like that." And then the guy hands me a bunch of stuff, and the one that I just always vividly remember was the base set Machop. I was like, "Oh,
Wow.
I know this guy. That's cool."
There
So
you go. I also have a weird memory like that where I was like at school riding a bicycle, but it was a bike that was too small for me even as a kid then, and I like went over the handlebars and landed on my chin. So like I had to be off school because I had like a bruised beard essentially like around here as like a 7 8 year old. But I remember getting a Ninetales I think it's called Brushfire starter deck. So I also like have that
uh,
core memory of having to go to the doctors, and Pokemon was a thing that appeased me
yeah.
essentially.
I think I
Just so wild.
remember. I think I remember. I was like talking about Pokemon with like I think I was describing Bulbasaur's like Pokedex entry to my mom, and then my mom like she was making me lunch and she like accidentally cut her finger with a knife, so we had to go to the hospital.
Oh
So I
my
was just like,
goodness.
yeah, there's a lot of Pokemon in hospitals in my in my early childhood memories. Maybe
That's
it's
wild.
yeah, it's kind of nuts that how it happened that way. Do you remember the? Do you remember when you first like took interest in like playing the card game competitively? Like how early on did that start for you?
So not at all. I didn't know the rules like at all as a kid. I think I was probably just too young or just like too stupid, I guess. Because my first card game I knew the rules to was actually Yu-Gi-Oh. So like the fads sort of like moved on and whatever else. So I remember doing like the Beyblades, the Yu-Gi-Ohs, the whatever else that came next. So learning the rules to Pokemon was back around 2008 or 9 when I started collecting again, just out of nostalgia. So it was in the Diamond and Pearl era where I started to pick up the theme decks, and that's how I learned the rules. So yeah, it was around that sort of time.
That's so funny. I also remember going through like the phases that everyone else went through. I definitely had a Beyblade phase. I definitely was like way more into the Pokemon was always like a constant.
Yeah,
I had the
video
cards,
games.
Yeah, because of the video games. Like I
Mhm.
was never not found without like a Game Boy SP like strapped to my wrist. Like I had that thing on me at all times, literally. But I remember like my brother had the cards growing up. And like he just like collected them for funsies. He didn't really know anything about what was going on. I feel like everyone has that moment. It's just like I wish I had a time machine to go back in time and be like, hey, listen, Holland's Phantoms, buy a lot of this. Dark Dragonite, great card. You should totally hold on to this. And I remember like my like one of my cousins and I, like we were like trying to learn how to play, and then we just did the kid thing. We're just like, we don't know what's going on. Let's just start throwing the cards at each other, and then it ended in a fight where my mom had to separate us. So it's like, it wasn't until like a buddy of mine, like years later, was just like, hey, do you want to learn to play the Pokemon card game? And I was like, all right, you got me. Twist my arm. Like, sure. Yeah. Like, I'll jump feet first in. I also remember I tried going to a Yu-Gi-Oh local by like a comic book shop. I think I was maybe in like the 4th grade or something like that. Mm-hmm. And my only like experience with Yu-Gi-Oh was like the anime. So I just took like 40 cards, put them together, no synergy. There's like 6 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon in there. And I'm like doing like I'm the cringe kid doing the anime thing. And the guy's like, you probably shouldn't do that. And I was like scarred for life. I was like, all right, back to the locker.
Not my scene. Not my scene.
Yeah. I guess the Shadow Realm isn't for me. It's fine. I'll be a moving person. Do you remember the first competitive deck you ever built?
Right. It kind of depends how competitive we're talking here. Because I was definitely like a self-taught only from YouTube and other stuff. Like, so it took me a while to really get integrated into the game. But I think the first deck that I can consider like a really good deck was Gyarados from Stormfront. Not when it first came out. It took a while to like get really going with all the synergy cards and whatnot. So it was more sort of around when Heart Gold Soul Silver was coming out and some of the new synergies from those sets where I started to pick up that Gyarados deck. So it was like one of the known decks of the format for a while, and it was easier to play than SP, and it was smashing with Gyarados, and it played Zero Energy, which also like had the fun and unique appeal of it, I suppose. So that was the first deck that I was like starting to really understand the game at a deeper level, I think.
I know somewhere in Peoria right now, George just kind of perked up in his convention center chair when you mentioned Gyarados, because we're our friend group is very 2010 pilled. I'm sure as you've realized, that's a deck that George is privy to. I, on the other hand, am a free agent looking for a 2010 deck. So if you're at home, what's the Lugia V-Star of 2010?
Lugia V-Star, in that it's just way too giga broken, or just that it like has a turn, because Gyarados has like a turn 1 and 2 game plan, and then the game begins, which is actually a bit like Lugia. So it tries to play out its opening pretty similarly. I don't know. SP seems like it's still the most broken thing if you can play it pretty perfectly, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the one game of 2010 I played, I think it was a Gardevoir deck that my friends handed me. So
God, he's still pretty good. Yeah.
What isn't it crazy? Like all these years later, that Gardevoir is just the GOAT. Like,
never stopped. Never stopped being the best.
Never quite stopped. I do find that kind of incredible. Like, as someone like you that's been around, obviously has played the game for a long time. Like, do you ever get tired of seeing the same Pokemon be really, really good? Like, format after format?
I would like more representation of different cards, I suppose. But at least Gardevoir's like a good one, and it is like an iconic Pokemon, I guess. But yeah.
That is a good one. It's funny because I feel like we also had that conversation about Charizard for a long time. It's just like, when are they going to make a good Charizard card? And it's like Radiant Charizard was like kind of it, but it's just like you can't play 4 of those. And then, Obsidian Flame came out, and then it was Charizard everywhere, and everyone's just like, you know what? maybe we should go back a little bit.
Yeah, Charizard. It took a long time for there to be a good Charizard printed, like a truly good card, and then they just gave us every good Charizard forever.
Yeah. So waiting for Mewtwo to make his return to the top again. I really thought Rocket's Mewtwo was going to be it, and then I played against it at NAIC, and I was like, no,
Nah.
sorry, bud, this deck stinks. Let's talk a little bit about the content stuff. Like I mentioned at the top, you've been on the internet for a long time. How did you get about like what was the opening steps for you to wanting to be like in the content space?
Yeah, I mean, as a teenager, I was always watching a ton of content, so I definitely idolized some of the people already out there doing it, like the Dan Middletons, the Jay Witts, Puka, those sorts of channels. Even Six Prizes had a channel back in the day as well. So like getting my fix was most like that's how I started to learn the game, and I didn't have that many in-person friends that wanted to play Pokemon. So that's how I sort of got integrated. It's actually how I met Jack, who's also the other side of Omnipoke, through one of those tournaments. It was a Skype tournament actually, and we were one of the only two on the English time zone, which is funny. And that's how we started to like become friends, and we would be on Skype for literally for a couple of years. We were just getting out of noob status and becoming like good at the game together, essentially. I think I got top 4 of that tournament, and it was with the Gyarados deck where I started to like play, and then I got wrecked by someone who was actually good in the UK scene called Tommy Roberts at the time, and he just absolutely molly-whopped me with a weird rogue. It was very cool, but that's how we started to talk and like get integrated in the game. I still wasn't driving yet; like we were still teenagers, so I wasn't really attending many tournaments. I think I got enough play points to attend nationals, really, and that was about it at that point. And this is now around towards like 2015, 2016. I think 15 was my first Nats or my second Nat. I can't remember. But essentially the Pokemon Dan Level 45, which was the big British channel, this was Dan Middleton. He had moved on to Minecraft, which meant there really wasn't much going on in the UK scene. There was a couple of people trying, but it was just as I was starting to go to university and Jack was starting to be able to travel a little bit more. We were both basically getting to that point where we were coming out of the casual steps and into the competitive steps. And we thought, well, it's a great chance to like document this and see how it goes. And also like expose your ideas to a wider range of people to call you good, bad, or indifferent as well. When you only have like Jack to play with, we're in a bit of a hive mind, and then sort of expanding those ideas outwards was also just another way to improve, I think. So it was a bit of like, there's a gap in the UK right now where the big channels just stepped away, and that we were both getting more focused into the game. It was a way for us to like really put our stamp and being like, okay, now we're trying to be competitive at this game and not just play it on Skype every night for like an hour.
Yeah, it's really crazy how like, when you kind of put it in perspective like that, like when I first started playing Pokemon, like you mentioned, Dan Middleton, like Dan TDM, I think is what he goes by nowadays. When I found out he was a Pokemon guy, I was like, really? Like the Minecraft guy? Like,
yeah,
that kind of took me by surprise. And then like
I've played him at cities. I've played him at I've played him at all sorts of tournaments before he was Giga famous, everything else.
Isn't it funny? It could be the guy you're sitting across from. You never know.
He still goes to EYC now and then. Yeah, he's very down to earth, lovely guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt that same way when like I started jumping in, and you mentioned Jay Witts. That's someone who I've gotten to know through Super Smash Brothers.
Nice.
Me and him have like crossed. We've been internet friends for a long time. Like he's told me how he really likes my commentary and stuff, and I've been so we've like swam in similar circles for a long time. And I remember watching his videos all the way back in the day, and like watching him do like unboxing videos, and he's like, oh, hey, I'm commentating at these regionals. And I remember going back to try to watch that stuff like at the time. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on. Like, turns out when you have no idea how a competitive game works and you try to watch footage of it, it is incredibly hard. I've felt that way about every like competitive esport I've tried to get myself into. And also sometimes real sports. I just have no idea what's happening. And now recently I found myself like going back, like sometimes I'll like fall asleep with my TV on and I'll be jump scared by like, NAIC 2017 finals or like something. or like just something like obscene, where like the YouTube algorithm just takes me places that I wouldn't go without adult supervision. And I go back to watch that stuff now, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I can like kind of understand what's going on here now. It is quite interesting how like a lot of that stuff still, carries over.
Yeah, it really does. And like even now, the Top Cut is still one of the best resources as like a time capsule of the eras of like around 2013, I want to say, onwards. Like it's such a good time capsule because Puka did videos every day and also had a podcast, so you could hear like Pram in his prime basically talking about the game whilst also being just like ripped on by his mates. It's such a great thing to go back on, even though it's like over like 12 years later or something. So silly.
Incredible stuff. If you had to recommend like a competitive set of Pokemon for like someone that wants to get into the game now, like what a stream set in the history of what we have now, what would be something that you recommend someone to go watch?
Maybe NAIC last year was a really good one. I mean, one of the games came down to a coin flip, which was pretty hype, but it still came down to like turns of time. I feel like we have a lot of like close knit finals, to be honest. It's weird. You want to give beginners the context, but also give them that taste of like the hype and the craziness of it all, right?
Yeah.
That was the first one that came to mind anyway.
That's one that I would recommend. I feel like that's like a low enough to a good enough barrier of entry to where like, both these decks seem pretty straightforward. And like you said, you also have to incorporate the hype moments of it too, because as I feel like as someone that's also in the commentary space, like you and I are, we are kind of get like fall in love with the numbers of it all, like the intricacies of like, the commentators, playing things out like 3 or 4 turns in advance.
Sure.
But also like the people at home are always going to understand like the meta levels of that.
Right.
And I feel like it's important to be like, oh, look at this cool thing that happened here. Like, I think a good example for me would be as someone who's, dating someone who's very new and green to Pokemon. I got to explain some of the hype stuff to my girlfriend at NAIC. And I think Riley versus Tord is a great example of that, of like, from like a metagaming perspective, obviously the past place is like, whoa, that's crazy. Like, that is a great understanding of competitive Pokemon and like how to play to your outs. And, to my girlfriend, it's just like, oh, the bear got knocked out. That was cool. This guy's really good at it. And it's an underdog story. It's just like,
right.
Or like Piper versus Henry. And she's like, oh, that's cool. Like Grimmsnarl does a lot of damage.
Yes, it does.
Yes, he does. I got I have a funny question. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, especially, and I'll use this as a piggyback to talk about some of the more recent stuff. I remember vividly when Sword and Shield came out that people were trying to like talk about people. I think we're able to like pinpoint what region of England Marnie is from. Are you familiar with what these?
I have no idea what this is. No.
Yeah, it was one of my friends he's a Smash commentator from London, and they were like, oh, look at where Marnie comes from. And I think they pinpointed to where she's from, the Pokemon equivalent of where Liverpool is.
Oh, no.
Does that change? Does that change your perception of Marnie as a character?
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, you do not want to be a Scouser. Oh, no. They have a very, like, it's so strange how small of a country the UK is for how different like an hour's drive can get you into different accents. But Liverpool is like one of the most distinct accents in the country, and they have their own like national identity. Essentially, they're almost like their own country to themselves. Really, wow! I did not know that, and I'm gonna have to go back and look at some of her dialogue now and think about it in a Liverpudlian accent.
Yeah, in a Scouse accent.
Yeah.
I think one of my friends was like, "This has genuinely ruined the game for me a little bit." Like,
yeah, I didn't know that either. I kind of liked her before that as well. Damn.
Yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense. Coastal town, they got really rowdy fans. She always had that like the TVL people following her.
She did. Yeah,
can the same be said about the Liverpool Football Club?
It tracks. Yeah, they do have passionate fans for sure. Arrogant fans. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get there at some point. I'm very much a free agent in soccer, so I'll let you pitch me on who I should root for.
It's fine. When you come to EUIC, you'll come to a Chelsea game, and you'll probably watch us lose and then support the other team. It's perfect.
I'm so down for it. We're so there. Let's talk about the cool stuff coming up. Obviously, we're in the off season, but it was announced all of the fun stuff surrounding Worlds, and you yourself are going to be a part of the party this year. So let me be maybe the second podcast to congratulate you.
Thank you very much.
Because I did listen to your other podcast where you guys talked about it. So congratulations to you. That's really exciting.
Yes.
I'm very excited for you. So how early do you like start your prep? Maybe and you can use this for like Worlds or just like a regional in general, as someone that's a decorated commentator and does a lot of these things. Where do you start your prep for these things, especially going into like a new set coming out? Like, does your prep process change at all? So when do you usually start your your prepping for a big regional or big tournament?
Yeah, well, especially for something like this where it's a new set, it's really important to have your finger on the pulse. So as soon as those scans are coming out, Jack's immediately translating them for his website, and we're immediately discussing how and where these things can go. Obviously, the first plan is always to look at the existing stuff and how cards can be inserted into the existing, and then also think about, is there ever a world where things, say, for example, the muted deck that's just come out in Destined Rivals, can that stand on its own 2 feet, first of all? So I think usually it's testing the known into the unknown decks, whether that's going to be over webcam or in person. We try and do a bit of both, to be honest with you, but that's already like begun. Like, I've got all the proxies printed out that I need for the new set. I've already built lists for the top like 10 and as like perspective lists. And of course, we've got the Japanese results as well that have just come in, which is already in this Worlds format. So I think that will be a bit of a starting point for a lot of people. So the theory is still going on right now and has already started. And I imagine a lot of top players will have already started that process as well and have started to sleeve up like 1 or 2 of their most interesting cards, I think, from the set. And then it's just about narrowing that down. Like, as a commentator for this, rather than a player, I will keep as broad of a net as possible and just want to have more, I guess, more surface level knowledge rather than intricate matchup knowledge of like a 60 and then wanting to tweak one card or whatever else, or what to do with that final slot, which I think is what I've normally agonized over as a player going to Worlds. Like, I remember playing in Japan and agonizing over Manaphy or not in Giratina, and me just really wanting a 4th copy of Nestball. Like, more than anything in the world, I wanted that 4th Nestball just to not brick. And all these decisions like never matter anyway, of course, right? But yeah, I remember having that real like hours of thinking over the pros and cons of a 1-card include. Whereas when you're casting, it's more about like, here are the new combinations. How do these change the matchups that we know about? And how do those decks look now? Like, what's a new standard before, like, as we go into this tournament to see what's going to happen? And that's part of the beauty of Worlds, is that there's going to be different testing groups, different ideas coming together. And I think for the World Championships, there's a lot more secretive stuff going on. So a lot of it is sort of revealed for this tournament because there's such a big payoff if you get this one right in terms of a metagaming standpoint. But the content's like on the way. It's just around the corner for us. We've already done our community ratings. So the set review is not far away. And from there, it's going to be lots of tabletop stuff. I know when Emily's here, we're going to be doing some tabletop testing and whatnot. So a lot of the content is like right around the corner for us.
I'm very excited for that as someone that's copied a lot of, deck lists that you posted out. So, I have so much respect for the people that are like the builders and have like the brain for deck building, because Lord knows I don't. Like it is, the NIAC was the first time like a group and I have like, me and my friends have kind of come together to like try to play the same thing, because we all like to play different, decks. We're all different people. We all have different play styles. But we finally get enough of us on something to like try to hash something out. Our buddy Harrell, who qualified for Worlds, he was kind of like the driver. We were letting him be the driver, because it's like, okay, you're the one that needs to qualify. Yeah, you're the one that needs to do this. We'll just follow whatever you think is best. And then we had like the 11th hours, like after we submitted our list, like, oh God, like, do we need 4 Ultra Balls? Like, maybe we could get an energy switch in here or something. Like, you just start agonizing, and I'm just like, thank God, I'm just such a passenger here. This is like, just give me 60 cards. Give me something that can, that doesn't require too much, too much brain thought. So, God bless. I'm excited for the stuff that's coming out here. But John, to kind of piggyback a little bit here, as we mentioned, you're commentating at Worlds. You've been a commentator for a while now. Talk a little bit about how your journey into Pokemon commentary, took place. I'm always curious about how people find our way into this crazy
Yeah.
little niche part of the internet we find ourselves in.
It really wasn't something that I'd like set out to do or thought about too much. I was already doing content, I suppose, and I guess I'm just such a fossil that I was one of the only ones doing it at the time. Like Ross was still the big cheese in the UK at the time. He was still doing his podcast back then, before it was just all on YouTube. And he was much more like integrating into playing the game, and he had commentated unofficially a few UK nationals. So he was like initially like first on the billing for the EU team as soon as that was sort of being sculpted. And I think he mentioned my name as like hey, he would be good to at least interview. And I did a series of interviews with TPCI about the role, and I think they went pretty well, and they took a chance on me. And like I wore a suit for everything for it. Like obviously I'd watched all the NA stuff, so I was well aware of what the expectation was for an NA commentator. I was very, very much like integrated in the game. I'd already got my Worlds invite for 2016 going into Nats, so I didn't like lose anything by not playing Nats. And that's how it started. It was UK, German, and Italian nationals was the first like commentary gigs we had, and it was just before international, like it was just before nationals was scrapped actually and turned into the international championships. But that was just fantastic, and it's really gone on from there.
Yeah, it's crazy when you kind of like put into perspective like how long you've like really been doing this. I know there was a trend going around on the app formerly known as Twitter this past week where it's just like, oh, this is one of those like how how it started, how's it going type of things. And I was like looking through trying to find like as early of a photo as I can of myself, like starting out as a commentator. And then I saw like the year next to where that picture was found from. I was like, my gosh, like what? Yeah. 2015 was how many years ago? Like,
I know.
The price of gas was what back then? Like, crazy stuff. And side note, to touch on, I think I mentioned this like in person a while ago. I love like watching other like TCGs and being like jump scared by Ross. It is truly the best. Like
he gets around.
It's great. Yeah. It's like furniture. It's very comforting. I think I was watching a Star Wars Unlimited regional while doing some busy work, and I was just like, "Is that Ross?" I was like, I think it is.
He turns his hand to a lot of games. Very cool.
That's it. And commentating a card game in general is already like such like a different beast than like where I come from, and where everything is very fast in fighting games and right. Other stuff that I've done, but commentating multiple card games where like you have to understand multiple card pools, trying to I still don't fully understand how Pokemon works sometimes, so like I truly applaud the people that are able to juggle multiple rule sets of different card games.
His skill set is very, very unique, and is what allows him, I think, to jump from one to another. And also he has the mentality to just want to commentate as much as possible, so he will put in that hard graft for whatever tournament is upcoming and do that in-depth research. Because like his YouTube channel is all about doing research and finding the best places to like pull from. It then makes his like studying really effective, which is like pretty good for him, right?
I don't understand a lot about Lorcana, but I listen to Ross talk about it. That's that's a fun one. So going back to the Pokemon side of things, we're obviously fresh off of the Japan Championships. Are there any like big picture things that you kind of took from that as like as what this picture for Worlds might be? Because it feels like a lot of the stuff is probably staying the same, maybe with like a couple of like you said, a couple of archetypes getting a couple of different spins. Obviously, you made a great video about some of the NAIC stuff, and I'm sure like you said, the content's coming. So without spoiling too much, what are your big picture thoughts here?
Well, strangely, the best performing bolt was an owlless bolt, and that's something that we could have been doing this whole time and somehow haven't been. And of course, Emily is very attached to Raging Bolt, so I've been watching her play a lot of that, and she's very impressed with it, which is pretty good. Dragapult gets a few big buffs. It gets to play Hilda, which is cool, which can allow you to search Neo upper, and we know that Todd's just played a straight Pult with Neo NAIC, which seems like a big upgrade. The Jelly seems real, and that's going into a lot of the Guardies. We can only see a couple of the lists, but The Frillish is just a really, really good card that can let you win Budgie Wars because it's bigger and hits harder, and then becomes a big jelly guy, which can take prizes even more aggressively. So that's pretty impressive stuff. But it is the same offenders, really, more than anything else. It doesn't look like there's going to be a big splash from Zekrom. Obviously, this is just a top 32 that we see, and we don't even have all the deck lists, so it's really not a snapshot of how the broader field is. And unfortunately, we don't have City League, so we really are going in like quite blind from the Japanese side of things, where normally we have a lot more insight going into Worlds. It's going to be really down to the player base more than anything else. But I feel like the Zekrom Eels looked on paper to have a chance of like bringing back almost like an old build of Miraidon being restored, where it used to be Flaffy and whatever else in the Vs. Now it's like Zekrom Eel could have been a thing, but it looks like that's not really had that big splash that we were maybe expecting. And it's more so going to be these like Air Balloon going into Golden Go and Genesect going into Golden Go, and then like Jellicent going into Guardy, and those sorts of pieces seem like the big differences.
Yeah, I really was intrigued by the Raging Bolt list as someone that also, likes Raging Bolt. Like like you said, it's just like, well, we could have done this the whole time. I found that very amusing. I know there's a couple of my friends that I ran into in New Orleans where they played, what I called the boneless version of Raging Bolt, where it's like what it used to be. I mean, I guess, and again, it makes sense. You throw a lot of energy into play. You play these big guys that can blow up anything. It seems to make a lot of sense. And also, like, obviously you have to take those results with the grain of salt that it is, because they play two different metas.
Right. And they get to swap decks after day one as well.
That's crazy.
Which is a very odd thing. Yeah. Really, really odd that's allowed.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. Like, that's like,
I'm sure a lot of people won't. And like, that was possible at a lot of Worlds, right? Where the day one was almost like a grinder, and like you could change, and very rarely it would actually happen. So I feel like if you've done that well the first day, very few people would change, but it's really those people who can scout a metagame differently, I guess, that will make that swap. But yeah, it's very odd that the time constraints on their format really do dictate what decks are popular, and that's why Raging Bolt pops up so much in Japan, I think, and still seems to go so far.
Makes a lot of sense. I love that guy. He's cool. Sometimes. And when I hit two Charizard decks, it's not cool.
It's so weird though. Like we loved Turbo Bolt before, and it's just that like losing Pokestop put everyone off and said like, oh, we need Ad Engine, because if we don't have Pokestop, this deck is drawing like way fewer cards, but you still draw a freaking load of cards with this engine anyway. So you do get away with it.
Yeah, 2 Mew, like just like some truly incredible stuff happening at the Japan Championships leagues. Me personally, I'm incredibly invested in Goldengo. I think that's like a deck, in my opinion. It's always like, it's always kind of been like a fringe. Like, is this deck good? Like, when it first came out, it felt very. When you paired it with Palkia, it's like, okay, it's good, but it still gets power crept by the broken stuff, and then the broken stuff goes away. And then it's just like, well, it's pretty good. And then its metagame felt pretty figured out for a while, and EV Box kind of jumped up in popularity a little bit. So like that, like little change in the meta, I feel like kind of put the deck on its back foot a little bit. I looked at the one list that was available, and I was just like, oh, this is interesting.
You boss did not see that coming.
Really didn't see that coming.
No.
Truly incredible
It's a wild list. But the Air Balloon is so cracked for Golden Go. Just the fact that you get to bonus so much more frequently is massive. But I don't expect people to take this as the stock list, because the counts are so unintuitive.
Yeah.
But the takeaways are that Air Balloon is good enough to play in like at least 2 counts. Plus Genesect is like probably a guaranteed 2 of with Quad Nest Ball, and you just say Ultra Ball's terrible, Genesect is my new best friend.
Yeah,
that sounds good.
It's cool. It's better than getting 1 Pokemon. How about 3 Pokemon?
Yeah, very very good.
Truly good stuff. The amount of deck space you save is nuts. So I'll be very closely looking into that. Are you excited for? Are you excited to go back to Worlds? I believe. How are you feeling? just in general, you're excited to go back to California again.
Really, really excited. I mean, Anaheim, I remember not doing too much outside of like the world's experience. I feel like around Anaheim, there's just a bunch of restaurants essentially that in like walking distance. So
if you don't like Disney, there's not a lot to do.
I'm not going to do the Disney stuff, I don't think. So it's going to be more about the event itself that I'll be enjoying. I played 2017 as a player. Didn't go too well. That's actually one of my worst worlds, I think, that I ever played. I played Espeon Garb and faced some really heavily teched Gardevoirs that played like multiple, what was it called? Wonder Energy, I think it was, and then multiple Ace Aurora that just absolutely cooked me. After I remember testing so much. This was one of those sad worlds where I changed deck based on a 1K that John Eng won like 2 weeks before Worlds with Espeon Garb, when I'd been testing a really good Turbo Alolan Ninetales deck that then did really well in Seniors. I think it won Seniors, actually. Like just a straight Ninetales Artillery deck did really well. To be fair, they had some different techs that I wouldn't have played, but I was very sad that I didn't play either that deck or a very cool, but probably way too greedy Turbo Decidueye that played so many items that you get stomped by Trash Launch turn 2. But I really did love that deck. It had Necrozma to do the 100 damage spread on Shamans, and then you would Decidueye pick them all down. It was so cool, that deck. But yeah, I ended up playing a very boring Espeon Garb and then doing trash anyway, which is very sad. But some of my friends, so Freya did really well at that Worlds, and I helped fix her list, and she got a top 16, which is very cool. And she's also going back, so we'll be like hanging out together in Anaheim, which will be cool. Yeah, and I was rooming with Alex and Freya, who are now both casters at the same time, which is very like a strange serendipitous thing. But one of my random core memories of Anaheim was watching Game of Thrones in my hotel room and watching a dragon being lifted out of the ice and turned into a White Walker dragon. And that's like stayed with me. I almost like pooped my pants when I saw that the first time. It was like, I was like, this is the one thing I didn't want to happen. And it happened. And that was right in the thick of it. So yeah, I'm ready to make some new memories, I think. Yeah,
the bar is like right around here. It's not on the floor. It's like hovering right above the floor. It's like
just above the floor.
Just right above there. That's all really exciting stuff. Obviously, I'm excited to watch it. Watching Worlds from home last year was a treat. I'm also excited for the stuff that comes post Worlds. Obviously, we did get our first sprinkling of new stuff announced. And we'll touch on that in a second. But I wanted to, because you're such a scholar of the game, we got the announcement at Japan Championships about more of the Megas evolution stuff coming out post Black and White, which I think we're getting in September, if I read that correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
So really intuitive name for the set, Mega Evolution. Truly,
how do they come up with that?
Yeah. Incredible. So something about putting monkeys on typewriters and writing Shakespeare. Like, eventually we'll.
It's like, what should we call it? Mega Evolution? Yeah, cool. That's lunch. Let's go. All
right, guys. Rest of the meetings and emails. See you later. So I wanted to ask you this because obviously you're someone that's played in a meta with 3 prizers before. And when the Megas were revealed back on Pokemon Day, a lot of conflicting feelings. As someone that's relatively new, my only experience to 3 prizes was Mew VMAX, and that's about it for the most part. So I didn't really go through the doldrums of the tag teams and the early set of Sword and Shield with the VMAXs. So can you maybe give what people maybe can expect in a meta with 3 prizers, with where the game is now power level wise, you've seen a lot. So what are your takes on 3 prize metas?
So I think the good news is it's definitely going to be more fun and intuitive than VMAX, which were basically all stage 1 3 prizes that evolved from stage 2. From 2 prizes already. And they all basically had 1 attack, 2 energy, did an amount of damage that was able to KO a basic V. So there's not that same, I really need to go first and I need to get the first hit in on their V to get a huge prize advantage and I just win from there. I think they're subverting that by giving us stage 2, stage 1, and basic 3 prizes, which is really, really good. So far, from what I've seen, they're trying to integrate them to not be absolutely bonkers. You can look at the hit points and think, wow, that's just disgusting. But at the same time, there's enough one-hit KO in the format that I think that's going to be okay. And of course, all of these are hit for weakness. Unfortunately, I do think that means we have more like 80-20 matchups, because if you play a deck that focuses on these megas, that then you get hit for weakness, you get absolutely smoked. There's not much way you can surmount a prize lead, or like, unless you tech your deck massively to try and balance like one matchup. So I think that's unfortunate, and it might be like gatekeeping some of the early megas, like Mega Lucario. It's disgusting stat wise, and it would be like a really good bare bones deck where you play 4 Riolu, and the goal is to just like let the first Riolu get knocked out, then you use a 1 prize Lucario, then you come in with Mega and then another Mega and force an 8 prize game against an opponent. That would be like a really solid strategy, but luckily it's weak to Psychic, so it's going to lose to Gardevoir on the spot, and now not really a deck so much. So I think what's good about the cards is it doesn't look like there's going to be these quad style decks. Like back in the tag team era and somewhat in the VMAX era, there was situations where, especially in like green engines, if you think about the tag team era, where you would have like 4 single prizes and then your 3 prizes, and then you would force that awkward 8 prize map, and just say that the hit points and stats of these are just so massive that it can carry. I think there's going to be enough complexity in the game where that's not so much the case, and maybe they're just like late game bomb style cards. Like Mega Gardevoir looks like a late game bomb, right? Where you can see someone going like, okay, evolve into Mega Guardi, Iono, see if you can hit 360 while I smack you for a huge chunk of damage, right? That you can easily see that loop being possible. But I can't really see like you're ever going to play no Guardi EX, or like 1 Guardi EX and then you just play the Mega Guardis. I don't really see that playing out from what we've seen so far at the very least. So I'm quietly confident that this feels way better than VMAX for sure. I think it's going to be better than tag teams from what I can see so far. I'm not the biggest hater on tag teams because there was cool elements of the tag team engine, like Tackle and the tag team supporters were very cool. So the parts that I actually quite liked about tag teams, and also big basic metas aren't always the worst. Like we've seen how it can be still quite interesting to have some strong big basics in a meta, even with evolutions. I think they've done that balancing act really correct so far throughout the Scarlet Violet set. So I still have faith in them that they're not like throwing out the window and going like, well, let's have a year of brokenness. Like we've had our cool, intricate balancing acts for so long where it's a bunch of mathy decks and then a handful of big smashers. I feel like they're not going to throw all that away just for the sake of being like, woo, 3 instead.
We were talking earlier about like mascot Pokemon that were like, we're just like dying to be good. Lucario is one of those ones where it's just like, can they just not make my boy weak to Psychic? Like Gardevoir, like we just talked about the history of Gardevoir being good. Like there's always going to be like, I think it's like the meme of like Jason Momoa, like running down the red carpet, like I'm about to tackle somebody. It's just like, that's like, you know, it's Lucario. Like he's like, it's so cool. Like you said, the card reads really good on paper, but it's like you're weak to Psychic. You're just going to get absolutely blown to smithereens. Which is tough. Yeah. I'm personally excited. You know, I think it's like you said, I think having that sort of fun middle ground between like mathy decks and like you slam your head into the table decks, you know, I think is interesting. And we'll see, like I said, we only have a very surface level of what they've shown us. Obviously there's more, there's more stuff to come, obviously. I think it's exciting, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how these cards function, you know, once we get around to like the Scarlet and Violet stuff rotating out, which is kind of scary to think about. Like, so
the one thing that makes me think there's not going to be these quad mega decks or whatever is that we just do not have the items to support that right now. Every engine in the game like requires a draw engine to like make it happen, and it also feels like already cards like Squawkabilly and whatnot are so freaking punishing for decks that like it creates that easy map for an opponent, and some of these mega decks won't afford to put like Fez down or something like that, so they're naturally going to create strange prize maps, especially if they're evolving from single prizes, right? Because suddenly it's like, I'll take out a little guy before it evolves, I'll take out a Squawk or a Fez, one of those are probably going to be on the bench at some point, and then I have one big burst of damage, or I 2-shot a 3-prizer, and that feels like pretty fine. So I'm pretty confident that it's going to be solid for prize mapping.
At least they got rid of Spirit Links. That's cool. So
oh my god, that honestly, old Megas, they were 2 prizes, but Spirit Links just soured the whole thing. All they had to do was make it a Mega Stone, and they would have been so cool. But no, they gave us like 20 different links in every set for the next like 8 sets. So sad.
Yeah, truly incredible stuff. As we move forward here, one quick thing before we get to Squawk and Seas, because I do Squawk or Seas, because I do have a fun one for you today. the 2026 rule change, obviously, it just came out, kind of shadow dropped, which was interesting amongst like the other information stuff that we get. And obviously you made a video on it, which everyone should go watch. Then again, I'll preach this to the heavens. Like, Joe is an incredible resource for beginner players and players that obviously just want to get better at the game. So I will link all that stuff below.
Thank you.
You know, obviously as a, you know, for research purposes. You know, obviously, so you obviously made a video on the new rule changes. Just to give the quick elevator pitch for, you know, for the people at home that might be starting out, like, or are you happy about it? Are you sad about it? You know, where is your head at with as a competitor?
The very basics is that I love +1 round because that could never be bad. I don't think anyone would be upset to play more Pokemon at these tournaments, especially because it's more than likely going to be in phase 2 of the competition for the most part of these, which means it's helping us avoid those horribly large ASIMs that sometimes we got close to, although we never actually had a really bloated like top 32 style ASIM, which is purely fortunate. Like, there were times where if a tie had been a loss or whatever else, we could have had these really insane top 32 style ASIMs, but I think they saw math-wise that they came close a couple times and were like, oh, we don't want this. Let's just have that extra round. So I think that's just a huge win. I think everyone's going to unanimously enjoy that. But I think there's pretty much unanimous hatred of 50+1 rather than 50+3. I've seen no one who's actually like happy with it, to be honest with you. I feel like we can all understand the logistics of like there's way too much downtime between these rounds, like 40 minutes at NAIC, but like after most time had been called. Like I very rarely looked over at the clock and it was not being reset beyond like half an hour. Very, very rarely. So having that hard 10-minute overclock seems smart. I feel like they could have just done the hard 10-minute overclock and still do +3 and see how that went first, because it then means that players have to speed up when they're in time and hopefully like create that process, rather than what they were saying. Like in the article, they were like, time is called, then people slow down and think, oh, I can relax now. I don't have to worry about this. Whereas if they kept an overclock and did +3, they'd actually be going faster in those final moments, which hopefully would have resolved the issue of downtime and these tournaments wanting to be larger but not having the drawback of time taking longer, right?
Yeah.
So I see the problem they're trying to tackle. It's just that +1 is such a bad feeling. I feel like we're going to have more ties, more things out of your control, in that you can never actually truly play that third game unless there's been a donk in there, or possibly multiple. Maybe Megas speed things up in that there's going to be decks that can win in 2 attacks now, I guess, theoretically, by knocking out a Mega then a Mega.
Sure. Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like +1 is not 50+1 is just not enough time for a best of 3. So really, we're playing best of 3 in name, but not in reality now, which does leave a sour taste, to be fair.
I got to give a shout out to Andrew Mahone's return to Twitter with the art, with his book cover of The Art of the Gentleman. That was incredible stuff. And I listened to like all of the podcasts this week to talk about it. And again, it's like the gentleman stuff is obviously like a part of the game. It's just going to put people that don't know how to negotiate these very awkward situations, like, you know, to put them in even harder positions. Like, I know that was a big topic of conversation earlier in the season, you know, with how the ASIM stuff worked. So, you know, you have people that might be engaging in something that they feel is like they're breaking the rules. So like, it's just going to make the experience for the people that don't fully understand everything that's going on around them a little bit more uncomfortable. So
yeah, it's bad for the judges. It's bad for the players. Like, they need to try and find a system that doesn't put that out there to be the right thing to do, you know, because it feels like it probably is the right thing to do in terms of making as many points as you possibly can, even if it means you end up being on the losing side of these agreements. You know, the EV is normally positive to have more wins and losses than have ties. So
sure. Yeah. So we'll see how things shake out. And again, your 2026 season starts next week as I look at my wrist without a watch on it.
I think the 5th is my first challenge.
Wasting no time.
I know.
Hit the ground runner. You gotta iron out those locals before you know, you gotta go visit the mouse. Both mice. You know which one we don't know. Yeah, truly exciting stuff. Here's to another fun competitive season of Pokemon and the 10-year local leagues. That is my my wise words of advice today. And now we get to have the real fun, Joe. We're going to throw you into the ringer for this week's edition of Squawk or Seas, everybody's favorite this or that question game. don't remember if we've done this yet or not. We've been doing these podcasts for almost a year, and surely we have a couple of repeats, but who cares? Like, I'm pitching you the idea of somebody who, again, went around your tour of North America, sampling the wares of the Northeast. We're gonna talk Squawkers use American snack foods. So, are you feeling up to the task today?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna start you off with I'm gonna give you a fastball right down the middle here to start you out. So, and again, for the rules, for those of you at home just following, if you like something, you squawk it. You know, you're singing the heavens about it, and if you hate it, you're gonna seize it, discard your hand, draw 6, maybe, unless Team Rocket's Watchtowers in play, and otherwise go next. So I'm gonna give you a fun one here, Joe. One that I know that I think that you do like. We're gonna squawk or seize the American delicacy known as Cheetos.
Cheetos are a massive squawk. They are so good. Honestly, they are so freaking good. Flaming hot Cheetos. I mean, you can get them here and there in the UK, just not like around me. So they really are, and they're quintessentially American, right? And honestly, I will have anything hot, and I feel like flaming Cheetos do satisfy that urge very well.
Yeah, truly a goated snack. So you're a crunchy Cheeto guy, not not a cheesy puff Cheeto guy. Like
crunchy, yes.
I had this conversation at work the other day, and they all looked at me like I was crazy. Like when I said that I like the crunchy Cheetos more than the puffy Cheetos. It was just like, I don't care. I like crunchy chips. That's a fun one. I would also be a squawk for me. I'm a big I'm a big cheese puff guy in general. So, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely watch the Flaming Hot Cheetos movie. I don't know if you've...
I didn't know that was a movie.
Brother, I'm about to put you on. It's cancel whatever you were going to watch on your way to Worlds. You're watching that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
All right, well, I'll throw you something sweet here because there's a lot of variety here. Good role player. Has a staple in most vending machines in offices across the building. We're going to squawk or seize Milk's favorite cookie, the Oreo. So
I'll seize an Oreo. I can do without them, to be honest. They don't do much for me. Yeah, I always feel like they're like pretty dry, and I guess you're meant to have them with milk, right? But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of British biscuits that are better than an Oreo. I would say, like I would put a custard cream or a bourbon above an Oreo every day.
Okay. I'm gonna have to put that. I'm gonna take notes for myself for when I go to EUIC, and I gotta figure out what I'm gonna get here. I've always, as someone that's like lived in America my entire life, I've never actually had like cookies and milk before, where you like dunk the cookies in. I've seen some people do some insane stuff with a box of Oreos, where you like take the cookie and then like drop it in the cup and then eat it with a fork, which I think is blasphemy. I think those people are heretics, truthfully, and it's terrifying stuff. I'm biased. I like Oreos. I like all the different varieties you can get. Selena Gomez just has a horchata flavored Oreo out now that I've been searching for weeks that I can't find anywhere.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, fun stuff. That. Yeah, I'll give you the food review later. Let's go down. I don't think there's anything more quintessentially American than this. What are your thoughts on the delicacy beef jerky? Are we squawking or seizing it?
It's weird. I'll give it a soft squawk, I think. Because at the airport, I had Cheetos and I had beef jerky, and then I also had like a Gatorade. So like that was me like trying to get a bit of Americanness in me. So something about beef jerky also like speaks to me as like this is very American, and I do like it. I think it's fine. I don't know. I wouldn't have a ton of it, but every now and then I do have a calling for it. Yeah.
There's so much. Don't read the sodium in those things. It'll make you never want to eat it ever again. It's just so good. You got to find the right one though, because something like I'm a big Jack Link's purist, like in terms of beef jerky. But sometimes you just it's just like chewing on leather. It's just not fun for anybody. I'm a fan of the nuggets. They have like these big beef nuggets of beef jerky. I don't want to know how they're made, but I'm not here to ask questions. I'm just here to get my protein in. I like my beef jerky with a little bit of chew. So definitely doesn't get more quintessentially American than that. All right, what? Let's go. Oh, this is an interesting one. This is more like an event snack. Which I'll throw it into the ring here. Are we gonna Squawk or seize the soft pretzel? Are you familiar with the game of the soft pretzel?
A soft pretzel is like a big pretzel, right?
Yeah, like a big soft, like a big chewy pretzel. Sometimes sometimes with salt, sometimes without. Usually served with like a little cup of mustard.
Oh, with mustard. I don't know if I'd ever have it with mustard.
I know. I'm a nacho cheese guy when it comes to like big puffy pretzels.
Yeah, I could see that. I'll Squawk it because there are some great bakeries, definitely in like Germany and France, and there's definitely been events where I've had a big pretzel from there, and I've been like, yeah, this is exactly what I need in my life right now.
Yeah,
I don't think I haven't had like a big American pretzel though. I imagine they're very similar, and it's a salty baked good, so it's going to be great, right?
Yeah, you can't go wrong. They're really popular like sporting events, and like it's good fair food. I'm a fan of it. It's a fun appetizer at like restaurants that try to like dress up like a big pretzel. They'll give it to you with like 6 different dipping sauces and they'll like hang it from like a hook. It is truly a spectacle.
That's too much.
It's a little much. Both in price and in the
it's just a pretzel, bro.
Yeah, it's like chefs I prepare for you today. This Bavarian pretzel. It's just like, all right, man. Like, let's skip the cutscene.
Relax.
Yeah.
Skip the cutscene is wild.
All right, let's see here. I'm also, for reference sake, I'm going from both my memory and also the tastingtable.com ranks the 31 most popular American snack foods. So we're kind of scrolling through the fun stuff here. I'll give you 2 more. I'll give you a sweet one. Let's get a classic in American schools for me. We're gonna Squawk or seize the Hostess cupcake.
Is there something special about? No, I don't. Is there anything special about it, or is it just
no? So it is a chocolate cream filled cupcake with like a little like white swirl on the top of it. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hostess snack cakes. Did they have Hostess in the UK? I don't know if they do.
No, don't think so.
You ever had a Twinkie before?
I've had a Twinkie. I would probably seize a Twinkie, so I guess I'm seizing the cupcakes too.
You're making the right choice, in my opinion.
So it's like a cream-filled cake.
Yeah, it's
that sounds terrible.
Picture like the consistency. Picture the consistency of like a Twinkie, maybe like a little bit lighter, with like some light icing on the top and like a very like airy but dense like vanilla cream on the inside.
Forget it.
Yeah. Honestly, you're not wrong. I actually didn't have my first Twinkie until I was in like well into my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar. The next time you come to the States, we got to take you to you got to come into summertime again for carnival season, because American fair foods should be studied by scientists because some of the stuff makes no sense. One of my favorite one of my favorite shows to watch when I'm on the road for like gigs is is stuff on the Food Network. There's a show called Carnival Eats where a guy goes around like just like ranking different fair foods. So Americans have got onto the idea of deep frying Twinkies as like a fair food. It's disgusting. It is truly. I've never felt worse in my life than the one time I had like a deep fried Twinkie. So.
Good God, yeah.
Deep fried Oreos though, those are great.
Okay,
I'm a big fan. All right, we're gonna hopefully end with a strong one here. Let's look through the list of stuff here. Okay, again, very versatile. A bit of more of a highbrow snack around here. Are you gonna Squawk or seize the pizza bagel bites? Are you familiar with pizza bagel bites?
Yeah, I'll definitely Squawk pizza bagel bites for sure. I do love a pizza. I do love them in bite-sized form. So honestly, everything you need.
One of the worst parts of like being an adult, at least in my case, is when I moved out of my house and there's a convenience store down the street from where I live, and knowing that I could just like walk there and get like frozen pizza bagels and I could just make them whenever I want is truly power that I should not be given access to. It'll ruin your life. I love pizza bagels; they're great. It's a little bit of a higher entry snack because you have to cook it. But man, is it hit! You can make them you can make them in a microwave. Which is disgusting, but it gets the job done. So, it's a fun one for sure. What's your favorite snack? What's your go-to snack? Like, if we haven't already touched it, I know you said you like.
I feel like I feel like it would be savory rather than sweet more often than not. Probably it would be some sort of crisp. or like I really like poppadoms as well. I do like those. It's just a little treat. They're a bit better for you than chips, I guess. They still have that crunch though. I gotta have that crunch. I feel like
The crunch is
those
good.
are
The crunch is very important.
Yeah, the spice and the crunch is what I'm all about.
God bless you. That's a fun one. One last question. Before we move on to the ending stuff here. I love to ask all my commentator friends this question. As someone that travels a lot, as someone that's on the road a lot, do you have like a hotel show that you like to watch, like something that you'll only watch when you have access to like the cable television?
I never turn my TV on at a hotel. I honestly, it's like a painting. It just sits there. I have not turned on that TV like ever. I don't sleep with TV on or anything like that. And I normally will have downloaded loads of podcasts to listen to just for the travel. And yeah, I watch a lot of YouTube, so I'll have my iPad and just watch stuff on that instead. So I will very rarely put the TV on.
Valid choice. The TV will rot your brain sometimes. Or in my case in New Orleans, sometimes it rains and your TV doesn't work. So,
well, now I'm hearing Carnival Foods. I kind of want to see what I can find.
Carnival Eats. I promise you, it'll be like the best like half hour like rabbit hole you go down. You'll thank me later for that one. That will conclude this week's edition of Squawk Seas, ladies and gentlemen. Joe, you did great. I gave you some tough ones. There's a lot of tough decisions there, but no hesitation. You're confident in your choices. I love that. Yeah. We love feeling good about our picks around here.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one.
No regrets.
Absolutely not. But yeah, that's gonna about wrap up our show today. Joe, I know you're incredibly busy. We touched on it earlier. Miss Lyric of Wisdom is traveling across the pond. And she also gave me a question to ask you. She wanted me to ask you how many packs you opened or something like that. Something about
well, so I don't know if you know this lore about me, but I've kept almost every booster pack that I've ever opened. So I think one of these days I'm going to make her count how many packs I've opened, and we'll see that's truly prison at that point. Because I have loads of tins full of empty boosters, loads of ETBs full of empty boosters, and the booster boxes themselves are full of the boosters that they came in. So it is easily thousands, because I've opened like 200 plus boxes. So yeah.
That is amazing.
It will be many thousand packs. Yeah, I still have.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Mr. Joe of Wisdom. Content coming out on the horizon. So it's gonna be fun for both of you. I'm excited for both of you, and I'm excited to go visit you guys next year.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
UIC. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll absolutely make it happen. But Joe, if you don't know where to find Joe, it's your fault. But for the people that may not know where to find you, where can they find you?
On YouTube, it's Omnipoke. On Twitch, it's Team Omnipoke. On X, it's Omni_Joe. I think that's the main ones. So yeah.
I can't believe I forgot to mention this. You're also 1/3 of the Spill the TCG podcast.
I forgot to mention it. And Spill the TCG podcast as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, we love supporting the podcast space around here. We gotta look out for each other. If we don't got us, who's got us? Yeah, definitely go check all that stuff out. You guys can check me out at Koopa NJ across platforms. We're at Squawkcast on the app formerly known as Twitter. We got a lot of fun off-season stuff coming up. We got guests lined up. Our NAIC blog will probably be out well before this comes out. And yeah, we hope you guys look forward to joining us. And also, this is a note for me. Don't immediately leave the room, Joe, because then we got to wait for the upload to finish. So I remember one time I had Emily on here. She immediately dipped out of the room after the recording was over, and it completely set me back like an hour. Okay. It's fine. I'm keeping that in. It's funny. Thanks for watching, guys. And until next time, we'll see you on the other side. Good night, everyone.